And now, a special episode of The Horror Guys. A very special episode. Wow.
Did you see any movies last year?
We did see some movies last year.
They made a lot of brand new horror movies in 2022.
Well, we saw like 365 or maybe even more than that movies last year.
Yeah.
But there was somewhere close to almost 80 of them that we saw that were all just released in 2022.
In 2022. A few of them we've seen, a few this month already, but 70-some during the calendar year.
And there's still a lot of 2022 movies we didn't see.
A lot we haven't seen yet.
But we both have made a top 10 list.
We made a top 10 list.
We keep a careful spreadsheet of everything we review, and at the end of the year, we've gone through and pulled out a list of all the 2022 movies that were released, and Kevin made a list of his top 10, and I made a list of my top 10, and we're going to see where we go with this.
What's your 2022 top 10? Easy for you to say.
All right, well, let's go with Kevin first. What's your number 10 movie?
I'm going to go with one called You Won't Be Alone.
Oh, it's the witch movie.
It's long ago and far away, and there were witches.
We just reviewed this one a couple weeks ago.
Yeah.
All of these, if you want to read our reviews, you go to horrorguys.com. There's a search bar in there. You just type in what you want to find out, and it'll bring it right up.
And it took me a while to warm to it as I was watching it.
It's very slow getting started.
It was slow getting started, and I was thinking I was going to hate it, and by like a third of the way through, and I love this, and what's going to happen next, and who's she gonna? Are we allowed to spoil these now, or
let's not spoil them now? The whole point of this is people are going to want to listen.
Yeah, there's things I could say to spoil it.
Yeah, there's a young mother. A witch comes to kill the baby, and the young mother says, "You can have her," and when she turns 16.
Yeah, she cuts a deal and locks the girl away, so the girl has no contact with anybody until she's 16, and the witch comes to collect on her bet, her bargain, and then the witch is in charge of the girl, and real unusual. And it's in the old days, no technology or anything. Like if you've seen The Witch, it's a little bit along those lines, old school, old style witchery. Very good. I liked it.
Yeah, I'm just looking at my top 10 here list, and it seems like all of these came out after Halloween. There was a lot of horror movies came out around Halloween.
They crammed it in at Halloween time, yeah.
Plus, I think because of people, getting past COVID and stuff, the good stuff didn't come till later in the year when people were able to make these.
Yes, so, there was some of that.
A lot of times you'll see like top something lists, and it's all the more recent stuff. They've forgotten the originals, and we looked carefully at the list, but I know in my case, most of these we've talked about in the last couple of months.
Most of them. Same here.
All right, so yours was
You Won't Be Alone was my number 10.
Right. My number 10 was Bones and All.
Oh, see, I've got that.
You got that already?
A little higher on the list, yeah.
You want me to wait then? Let's wait till we get to yours.
No, it's okay. Go for it. And I'll spoil and say that mine is, that's my number 7.
Number 7, okay.
Yeah, but
Bones
let's
and
talk
All.
about it now. Yeah.
All right. Well, there's this young girl who goes over to a sleepover with her friends, and they're painting each other's nails like girls do. And the girl reaches over and bites the other one's fingers off.
And that's when you realize that something's wrong here.
This is a cannibal movie. Yes, for some reason she has a need to eat people. Mm-hmm. And she ends up running away from, the father abandons her actually. But she ends up on this road trip, and she meets other people with the same
who are
condition.
Like her. She's not alone.
It's not a vampire movie. It's not a zombie movie. But it's kind of got aspects of both.
Yeah.
They're just, roaming cannibals.
Yeah, they don't seem to have, a little bit of weirdness. But for the most part, they're just normal people.
Yeah. Yeah.
I mean, as far as powers or abilities, there's a little bit of oddness there, but not much. No, it's not like vampire powers.
Well, she runs into a little bit of a romance with Timothy Chalamet. Mm-hmm. Or is it Chalamet? Can you say the T on that one, his name or not? I can't say I've heard a lot of people say it.
I think I've heard it said Chalamet.
Okay. Well, anyway, there's a romance involved, and it takes a lot of time of the movie, and I think a lot of people did not care for the romance aspect. They were looking for just a straight-up horror film. That was
cool, how they worked that in.
I did, too.
Yeah.
All right. So, Bones and All. What's your number 9?
Moloch.
Oh.
A monster from the Netherlands. An old
That's
monster.
the one with the dead people buried in the swamp.
They were on the edge of a bog, and it's interesting when they can do that with a horror movie, because there really are ancient bodies in ancient bogs that are incredibly well preserved.
Bog man.
Yeah, the acids and the tannins basically make a natural leathering process, and these bodies that have been there for hundreds and hundreds of years there's a archaeology expedition that's digging, and the archaeologists are mingling with the villagers, and they're finding bodies. And, these are old bodies. Look at this old cult long ago that was slitting people's throats and killing them and doing all these terrible things. And then they realize
that's still happening.
It's not ancient history. Yeah. And there is possibly a real monster involved. That it's a worship of a deity that maybe it's not just a bunch of superstition, and it's certainly not ancient history.
Moloch.
Yeah, it was very cool. I really liked that.
Yeah, that was a good one. It's not on my top 10 though. My number 9 is Deadstream.
Oh, okay.
He's a live streamer who has gotten into some kind of trouble. I don't know. We never really find out what he did wrong, but he's lost most of his sponsors, and he takes a dare to go spend a night in a haunted house. So he wires up the cameras, and he does his, like and subscribe garbage, and he goes into the haunted house.
Live on the air.
And he does his live stream with ghosts and some horrible stuff in a haunted house. And it's very, very funny.
That's actually my number 6.
All right. Well, you need to tell me this. I think what we should do is hold them off. Otherwise, if we get to too many similar ones at the top, we're just going to say, "Yep, me too's."
No, that's okay. No, I think it's fine. Yeah. So anyway, yes, lots of dark humor. Very, very well done. And
it's really only him and one girl is the entire cast. Is all you see.
Mm-hmm. For the most part, yeah.
And he's the writer and director too. So yeah, it's kind of a one-man show almost.
Yeah, some quick things of other people.
Oh, but, his really viewers have to chime in.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Go closer to the ghost.
Yeah.
Get out of there.
Goading him on or cheering for him or various things. Yeah.
Kevin's number 8.
Glorious.
Oh, my. Tell us about Glorious.
Well, this is it's a guy who gets locked into a restroom. A rest area restroom, and there's
what does he see in this restroom?
A glory hole, and on the other side of the glory hole, in the bathroom stall, is a H.P. Lovecraft style Cthulhu,
a cosmic entity.
A Cthulhu level cosmic entity that is trying to not manifest into the world and needs this guy's help. But, most of it just takes place in a yucky bathroom.
Ryan Quanten saves the universe in a restroom stall.
Yeah.
With a glory hole.
With a monster
painted on the side.
Mm-hmm.
Very, very funny.
It was.
It's not on my list either, though.
Oh, okay. What is your number 8?
Number 8, When the Screaming Starts.
Oh, okay.
Is that on your list, too?
It's my number 3.
Well, let's save that one. Okay. When the Screaming Starts was kind of an indie film. Involves a guy who wants to start a cult. Or he wants to be a serial killer at first. We'll save that one.
Okay.
What's your number 7?
My number 7 was Bones and All.
Okay.
Yeah.
My number 7 is Speak No Evil.
Okay. That's not on my list. Tell us about
your list.
What did you like about that? Well, I liked it.
Yeah, Speak No Evil. It's Dutch, Norwegian, or Swedish, or one of the couple. Actually, it's 2 of those countries. One couple goes to spend the week with another couple they met on vacation, and there's a very weird family they go to spend their time with. The father looks like he's abusive to the child, and he's mean, but he's also very nice, and it's very confusing. The family that goes to stay with him is super, super polite, and even though they want to leave, they just can't bring themselves to do it, because that would be rude.
It ends up being the worst weekend ever.
Yeah, it does. But Speak No Evil.
But yeah, it was well done. Yeah, I liked that. I liked it.
Yeah. All right, so yeah, Speak No Evil is my number 7. What's your number 6?
Deadstream.
See,
we talked.
We should have saved these. Okay. Next year we'll know how to do this. Mm-hmm. My number 6 is Resurrection.
Oh, okay.
Is that on your list?
It's not on my list.
All right. Well,
Yeah.
Resurrection, there's this woman. She's a high-powered businesswoman in an executive suite office, and she is climbing the chain and all this. And suddenly, she goes to this conference and sees this guy that she recognizes from way back. And she gets really upset. And then she sees him again outside, and he pretends not to know her. But he does.
It's him.
Yeah.
And boy, that was a weird past they've got.
And I can't say too much without spoiling that one, but he's weird, and she's weird too.
Yeah.
And it's got kind of the most out of the blue ending.
Tim Roth is the guy.
Tim Roth is good in everything.
Yeah.
Yeah. And it's just weird.
Yes,
yeah,
it
it's
is.
very weird.
Uh-huh.
A lot of it is it real or is it imaginary? And by the end, you get, well, I guess you could probably go either way, but I thought it was pretty clear at the end.
Uh-huh. Well, it's a little inconclusive at the end, but yeah, very, very interesting.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
Takes
Well
us
done.
up to Kevin's number 5.
Kevin's number 5 is what Josiah saw.
Oh, you liked that.
Yeah, I loved it.
That's pretty far down on my list. What happens with what did Josiah see?
Well, that's the thing. I can't say a whole lot without spoiling.
Okay.
What's
the story about?
It's a father and son who are staying together. There's a couple other siblings who have moved out, and we see what's happening with that other brother sister out in the world. They've got complicated stories going on as well. And the father,
It's sort of
son,
like 3 stories in one.
Yeah, yeah.
Not an anthology exactly, but close.
Yeah. And the father son, they kind of live in squalor a little bit, but one day Josiah wakes up and he sees the light, and they're going to clean up the house and they're going to get their lives together, and this is what we're going to do. And so they start doing it. And then the other brother sister gradually converge on home, and
Hilarity ensues.
Yes. Yeah. And it's just it's weird and dark and kind of strangely funny here and there. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, it was very good. I made it sound like I didn't like it. It just wasn't top 10 worthy for me, but I thought it was really good. It was
Nick Stahl is in it, and what's the dad's name?
Robert Patrick.
Robert Patrick plays the dad. He's really excellent in that role. Well, he's always good, but especially good in that role, I thought.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. That was What Josiah Saw.
What Josiah Saw.
My number, was that your number 5?
That was my 5.
My number 5 is Pearl.
Oh, it's my number 4. So we can talk about it now.
Yeah, okay. Well, we'll skip my number 5. What's your number 4?
Pearl was a prequel / sequel. It actually came out after X, and goes into the old lady's origin.
Yeah, the movie X came out in June, and it's about this group of porn stars that go out into the country and rent this barn, I guess, from this old couple to do a porno movie.
Yeah, they have a cabin that they stay at, but they're filming on location. It's a fantasy, farm girl, in the barn kind of porn scenes and stuff.
And somebody starts killing the porn people one at a time.
It's an old couple that they rent
slasher
it
type.
from.
Yeah.
And the old lady is Pearl.
The old lady's name is Pearl.
Well.
So then a few months later, they came up with a prequel named Pearl about the old lady before she was old.
Her origin story.
Yes. And it's very fairy tale like. It's very
Wizard of
Oz like. And it's just very twisted and sick. And
she kind of lives in a fantasy world that's parallel to the real world. But it gets pretty warped.
It does.
Real
It's
warped.
very cool, yeah. Between the two, I definitely like. I didn't think that much of X. I thought it was a fairly standard slasher film. Pearl, though, was on a whole different level.
Pearl was really a winner, yeah.
All right, that was your number 4.
That was.
My number 4 is Fresh.
Oh, okay. Yeah, that was a nice one.
The nice, sweet little Hallmark movie. Well, it starts out, the first half hour, if you'd watched this thing on Hallmark, you wouldn't think twice.
It's a delightful romance.
Yeah. And then a half an hour in, the credits roll, and you find out it's a cannibalism movie.
Yep.
And it's very good. I'm not going to, the cannibalism is, I guess, the big surprise, but you're going to get that from the movie
It's
poster.
Complicated cannibalism story.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Does one learn to like cannibalism? It's an acquired taste.
Is it? Yes.
All right, what's your number 3?
That was when the screaming starts.
Oh, what
was my 3?
All right, well, we didn't really talk about it. What's that about?
It's a documentary. This guy is putting a documentary together, and it starts out from his point of view, and he's meeting up with this guy who wants to become a serial killer. And he never has killed anybody and doesn't have the first clue about how to kill somebody.
But he wants to.
But he really, really wants to. And he's got a really weird girlfriend, and they end up recruiting. They decide they need a coven of killers, basically, to where they can all work together. So they do interviews, and they recruit just this group of misfits. It's just hilarious and dark and funny and still, serious because people die. But boy, is it! Yeah, I just really liked it.
It's a comedy.
It's a comedy. Yeah.
All right. Before we get into this, I should point out what I was thinking when I made my list.
Yeah.
I prefer movies that I'm still thinking about a day or two later.
Mm-hmm.
You're thinking about, there was that little plot hole that I just remembered of just about that in the movie we saw 4 days ago.
Yeah.
Or, hey, how come they didn't do this? If I'm thinking about something 3 or 4 days later, that's a good sign that I liked it.
Mm-hmm.
And there were some things we saw in 2022 that I couldn't even remember what they were about after seeing their name on the list.
Yeah, I had to look up some.
Yeah, what was that?
Yeah.
Oh, that one. Yeah, I didn't care for that. Was there anything particular you were using to make this list?
Pretty much the same idea. The ones that stuck with me, the ones that popped into my head.
Yeah, some movies are a lot of fun to watch, but you don't think about them afterwards.
Yeah, the ones that really stuck with me.
Lasting power.
Made me feel something.
Okay, what'd we do? What was your last number? You did 3?
I did 3. That was when the screaming starts.
Okay, my 3 is probably the most controversial thing on my list.
What's that?
The Munsters.
Oh, really? As a favorite?
I liked the Munsters.
Well, I liked it, but a favorite? Wow. Okay.
It was good.
It was.
Rob Zombie did a remake of Herman Munster and Grandpa Munster and Lily Munster in The Munsters. It's sort of the origin story we didn't know we needed.
Yeah, prequel to the TV show, more or less.
There's a Frankenstein-y kind of character whose name isn't Frankenstein, but he decides to make this thing out of dead bodies, and he builds Herman. Herman goes on a stand-up comedy tour.
And he's not a monster, he's Munster.
Yes, and the daughter of Dracula sees him on TV and falls in love. The rest is history.
Mm-hmm. And you know what what made me appreciate it more quite some time after we saw this, we saw
Munster Go
Home, which was their full-length movie.
The originals.
And it was the first time they had appeared in color. And the color schemes and lighting that Rob Zombie uses made a lot more sense after I saw that, and made me appreciate Rob Zombie's work a lot more.
I think a lot of the people who didn't really care for it didn't see the originals.
Yeah. He really replicated the look and the colors and the lighting really well, and the humor.
Or maybe some people had seen some of the black and white. All the TV shows were in black and white.
Yeah.
So, it's not quite the same. But the movies, there were 3 or 4 of the movies.
Yeah, so I would really recommend Munsters Go Home to be paired with Rob Zombie's Munsters.
Yeah. Okay. What's your number 2? I suspect you and I are going to be very similar on 1 and 2.
I bet you're right, yeah. Nocturna Side A, The Great Old Man's Night.
Oh.
That was my number 2.
Oh,
I wasn't expecting that. That one, were you? Yeah.
I remember really liking that at the time,
but
I haven't really thought about it much since.
Oh, I have, yeah.
Well, tell us about it.
It's an old guy. It's just this
okay. There was a Nocturna Side A and a Nocturna Side B, and I remember we really both kind of hated the second one.
Yeah, the second one doesn't really have much of a story.
It felt like an afterthought.
Kind of a matching up of clips, like leftover footage from the movie, and she just kind of randomly spliced it together.
But Side A was really good.
Yeah. It's a old man remembering his life over the course of a night.
That sounds really boring.
It's not.
What happens to make it interesting?
Oh, it hops back and forth in time, and you really start to wonder how much is really happening to him, how much is dementia, how much, is he, having a near-death experience and flashing back on all this stuff, and it's all happening in an instant, or, what exactly is happening. But just so beautifully filmed and beautifully acting. And the main horror is kind of the horror of getting old and losing your mind and losing the people you care about and losing your resources and, the sense of loss.
Age is the enemy.
Yeah, it really was in this. But boy, he's a powerhouse actor in this, and just really beautifully filmed.
I don't remember his name, but he's genuinely an old guy. He's like in his 80s.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was just really excellent.
All right. Well, I think my number 2 is probably going to be way more mainstream than that.
What's that?
Barbarian.
Okay. I liked it.
Woman goes to an Airbnb or something like that, finds out it's double booked with some other guy who's already rented it, and they decide, which is creepy in itself, because he invites her in, hey, you want to stay here with me? And she has no idea who this guy is.
And so you wonder, he's set
Is
her
he
up.
a murderer,
yeah,
stalker,
he's a murderer,
it's a trick.
and
Yeah, and that's not it. That's not
it
at all.
That's a red herring.
Yeah. Turns out there's something weird living in the house with both of them.
Uh-oh.
Yeah, and it goes downhill from there.
And Justin Long is in it, so you know how things go for Justin Long in horror movies.
I'm sure he'll be fine this time.
Yeah, you're right.
What's your number 1?
Crimes of the Future.
I knew you were going to say that.
I knew you were going to say
My number 1
is
Crimes of the Future.
Yeah.
That was a weird movie.
It was weird, and the soundtrack is beautiful. It's science fiction-y. Lots of science fi in it. And, just all around.
It's
really
set
good.
in a future where pain has been eliminated.
Or
no one feels pain.
Or almost an alternate timeline.
Yeah,
It doesn't feel super futuristic, just, because it's so weird. I mean, things couldn't get that weird in
My understanding
in some
is,
years,
that they made this breakthrough where pain can't be felt, which brought up this whole new thing of surgery as entertainment. And then society basically fell apart.
There's body modification now. Imagine the body modifications that you can do when there's no pain.
Well, if you watch the trailer for the movie,
do.
you get an idea. You see this guy who's covered in ears. Why would you do that? Because it's art.
Because it's art. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's that's literally what it is. It's a performance art piece. He sews his eyes and mouth shut. And he's got ears all over his body. And,
I'm all ears.
And he dances to this awesome song, too.
That's just one character in one little scene, though.
It is.
But there's this big government conspiracy, and this one guy who may be dying, or maybe he's just growing something new, and it's really weird. David Cronenberg, so it's body horror all the way through.
Yeah, some people spontaneously are growing organs, new organs that have never been in humans before.
There are artists who specialize in growing novel organs.
And displaying them.
Yeah, it's just weird. It's very weird. It's very original. I've never seen anything like, surgery for fun.
Mm-hmm.
But of course, if David Cronenberg's going to come up with it, it's going to have body horror and blood and guts and all kinds of good stuff.
It sure does.
My number 1 of the year, and your number 1 of the year.
Yeah, it is so far. I'm going to make an honorable mention, though, because I thought that this list was just including things we saw in the calendar year of 2022. And we've already seen a number of 2022 movies in this beginning of 2023.
We didn't see all of them. There are some that are left, yes.
Saw The Menu. So I'm going to insert that as my number 11. Or somewhere in there, because I really, really liked The Menu.
I like The Menu. I don't think it's going to be in my top 10 or thereabouts.
Just talked about it a bit on our most recent regular podcast.
Yeah. Well, the problem with horror is it's such a wide blanket. There's a lot of things that don't appeal to everybody.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm sure we could probably easily come up with a bottom 10 list also.
We could.
Yeah.
Uh-huh. But that's just kind of mean.
That is,
pointless.
Yeah. We've already slammed on my number 1 hated movie, and I'm sure it was your number 1 hated movie as well. Let's just not go there.
Just like Crimes of the Future, we both have our least favorite as well. We're synchronized.
But the problem is there's a lot of them that are just not that memorable.
Yeah, they're okay. They're good. Yeah, that was good.
There's some of them we sit through and we're like,
line.
well, there's 2 hours wasted.
Yes, definitely.
But it's the ones we don't even remember that feel like a real waste.
That are a solid 6, 7, or just, that was good. Okay, next. Yeah.
Well, I don't believe we've seen. We're recording this on the January 11th, so we have procrastinated this for a few days. I don't think we've seen any new 2023 films yet.
Sir, you are mistaken. We were recording this on Friday the 13th.
Oh.
Yeah, it's Jason's Day. Yeah.
Do you believe we are we're more than 4 years into the podcast and we have not watched a single Friday the 13th movie yet?
We should.
There's a lot of them. We really should.
There's a lot of them.
One day we're going to come down to that level.
And I think I have seen most of them over the years. I don't think I've seen them all, though.
I don't think I've seen them all either.
Yeah, I missed some of the top ones.
I'm sure I saw the first 4 or 5 or 6. And I know I saw the one in space.
Somewhere around 7, 8, 9. I'm missing at least 1 or 2.
I couldn't even tell you for sure how many there are.
Well, there's a Jason X. So
I
at least
remember
10.
that.
There's at least 10.
That may have been the last one.
Oh, I'm not sure.
Or did they reboot him?
I don't know. See,
we have a project for 2023.
We have a project. Yeah.
All right. Well, there's our top 10. Kevin, what is your top 10?
You mean like list them off?
From 10 down to 1.
Oh, okay. 10 down to 1. You Won't Be Alone, Moloch, Glorious, Bones and All, Deadstream, What Josiah Saw, Pearl, When the Screaming Starts, Nocturna Side A, The Great Old Man's Night, and Crimes of the Future.
That's a cool list. I've got Bones and All, Deadstream, When the Screaming Starts, Speak No Evil, Resurrection, Pearl, Fresh, The Munsters, Barbarian, and Crimes of the Future.
In the menu, as a bonus mention.
I didn't know we were doing bonus mentions,
okay,
right? I come up with one.
I'm doing that.
All right, menu was good. Menu was good.
Yeah.
Now you're making me hungry. That and Fresh, the cannibal movie.
Yum.
Let's eat.
Yeah.
All right, well, I'm Brian.
And I'm Kevin.
And we'll see you next year.
See ya.